welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Show. Shows about conversations that matter. And I'm so inspired by people who come on the show. As much as I ask, I sit back and I learn so much. And really happy to have 2 times TEDx speaker, author, mom, and just all around awesome person. Please welcome the incredible Merav Richter to the show. How you doing?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Nikki.
much.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you. And I have to say, this is not our first encounter.
No, it is not.
Remember, we have something in common. Miss Jamaica Universe was in the midst of our getting connected.
Dancing. We had to dance. We had to dance down.
It was a dance down, dance off,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And it involved dance hall.
Yeah, and we boogied.
And we did, but shamelessly.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
And I think it's somewhere on.
And there might be video footage.
There is video footage, so we'll get to that later. But I'm just so happy to hear all the wonderful things that's happening. And congratulations on the publications of your 3 books.
Yes, right. Oh,
wow.
Gosh, I mean, I hear that. And yes, it's been a few great years since our dance hall
Dance hall days.
It has been. Sometimes I have to sit back and look at it. I'm so blessed that with the journey that I've been on, I'm so blessed because, you know, as much as I hear you saying these things and I think, is that really me?
Yeah.
Did I really? And yes, I did. And I take pride in it. But I also know that I couldn't have done all those things without having met the right people along the way and had the right help and the right communities that really supported me and saw my vision and let that vision come to life. So it's really just, it's a group project.
It really is.
It really is. Yeah. You're never alone.
Yeah,
you're never alone.
The unity and community is what I really love, and just going out and putting out good energy, and you never know what's going to come back to you.
Exactly.
And look at I don't know how many years later, here we are sitting together. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, and just having that great energy of the dance.
Yes.
Just dancing through life. And that made such a strong connection for us that here we are so many years later having evolved, both of us, and done some really great things, as you have as well in the last few years.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I wanted to hear about your evolution to becoming a TEDx speaker. Now, so many people aspire to grace the stage of the TEDx platform. What was it like for you?
Well, I was lucky enough actually to have become involved and grace the stage, really. And when I say grace, because the grace of being on those stages was really because of amazing people in the community that held those events and asked for me to speak there. Having heard my story, one of the challenges originally was that I wasn't actually willing to share the story of the personal story that I was going with. Today, I have evolved past that and I've allowed that. But when I started my journey, so as a young girl, I only wanted to do 2 things. One was write, and the other was become a stewardess. Because when I was
a what?
A stewardess.
A stewardess.
A stewardess.
Okay.
Because when I was young, I had a lisp.
Okay.
And of course, it was before the political correct era of calling them flight attendants. So it was a stewardess. But I really wanted to be a stewardess.
Got it.
My first flight, and I saw these elegant
ladies. I see you.
Right? Did you have one too? I think all the smart people always had lists. We had things to overcome, right? And sometimes it comes out a little bit if I'm not. So that's what I really wanted to be. I wanted to be a stewardess. And lucky enough, I had a life where not necessarily conventional, and I traveled quite a lot, moved around quite a lot, moved to different schools. But I always had that. Whenever someone would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, a stewardess.
Okay.
And then eventually, after the lisp, a stewardess. And then eventually, it was a flight attendant. And I went on to do some really cool things during my youth. And when I was in university, pursuing a very academic path, using the brain, and really kind of focused on a career that I would have been miserable in had I continued that way.
But what was it? What was your field?
Well, I was studying philosophy, specifically philosophy of religion. But, there's not much you can do with a philosophy degree other than go into academics or become a stewardess. And then write and do advocacy and all the things that I'm doing now. But when I was in the beginning of that university career, my mom called me, and my mom had passed away just a few years after that. So it was like the gift she gave to me before she passed, that she ensured that I was set up to live my dreams And she called and she said, do you remember when you were a little girl and you wanted to be a stewardess? And I
Right.
said, yes. And she said, well, they're hiring. And so I went and I got the job, and I've been there now. I'm very happy and proud to report 25 years later.
Wow.
And it's been a dream job. And when I say that I wasn't ready, I also in that time had 3 kids. I had 2 boys, and then I really hoped and prayed for a girl. And finally I got my girl.
Yes.
And she is my angel, my princess, my
Mini me.
love of my life, and my boys are as well, but amazing. One of the things that I was challenged with, and I knew right from an early age, was that she was different. I'd already raised two boys. I knew what it looked like to look in their eyes when they were babies. I knew how they looked back. I knew how it felt when I nursed them and I would hold them, and she felt different. It was something was different in the way that she looked at me,
Yes.
and the way that she looked back, and the way that she communicated, the way that she cried was different. And my suspicions and fears were validated a few years later when she was diagnosed with autism. And for years, I would say, it's not my story to tell, and I would never talk
about it.
That she has autism. And I held on to that story that I was creating in my mind,
Right.
that I can't talk about that because it's not my story to tell, it's her story. And I can't share that. But something in me knew that I had to build up the wellspring, the reserves of some sort of woman essence in me of creation to build, to be ready for her, to be ready for her to come into life, into her best, into her greatest version of herself.
So you prepare yourself for her
I
greatness.
had to prepare myself to understand the way that she communicates. I had to learn a whole new mind, a whole new way to communicate. And even in that learning the whole new way to communicate, I actually saw myself as a child for the first time and realized that I also had the benefit of having a mom who was a special needs teacher.
Look at
and
that.
she saw the way to communicate with me. So I started writing books. My first book I wrote just as an extension, just a creative outlet. And I entered it into a contest and I won. And suddenly I had to see myself in this new light. Oh, I'm not just a mama and a flight attendant. Oh,
You're an author.
I'm an author.
Yeah, what was the name of the book?
That book was called The Secret of the Storyteller. Okay. I went with the name M. Richter because many people call me M. You're welcome to call me M. I spelled it at the time, E.M. Richter. And it was just my first foray into the writing world, and it validated something for me that I suspected.
Yes.
And then as I started to promote and market that book, I went on to write a second book, a nonfiction book called Brave Ecstatic Woman. And here's the best part, because now we're going fast forward, because I had some amazing epiphanies and aha moments through that time.
Yes.
But here's the best part.
I'm leaning in.
You're right. Yeah, lean in. So 1.5 years ago, my little baby girl sat down in the car with me. Now, she's been watching me write books.
How old is she now?
She's now 11, so she was 9 at the time.
Okay.
And she's been watching me write books since she was about 3. I mean, since she can remember. And she didn't speak until she didn't speak. She would share with me, but publicly she didn't speak. And suddenly she turns to me at 9 years old and she says, Mama, I want to write a book with you.
Wow.
And I went, oh, like the heavens parted and the sun shone down. And it was like, here I was writing books that empowered women, and my #1 woman became empowered to write a book.
Beautiful.
And we collaborated that summer. I call it Camp Mama. We worked in the morning was our writing time. In our pajamas, I was having coffee, she was having cereal, and we wrote every morning. And then in the afternoon, we'd go bike riding and swimming and all the fun summer stuff. And over the course of that month, July, we wrote a book. We published it in August, and on the day that it was published, it became a bestseller. Wow. So my little daughter, silent child, who was going to school and having quite a lot of troubles at school, here she was walking into school as a 9-year-old best-selling author.
I gotta give her a clap. I gotta give her a clap for that. That's awesome sauce.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Her name is Ella Richter. Yes,
Ella.
Which means goddess. So it's she's my Ella Sarah Richter. She's my goddess and princess. And for me, it opened up a door for me that I didn't think that I was a speaker, and I didn't think, so suddenly seeing myself as this author, now seeing myself as an advocate. When we wrote that book, it was called The Search for Maya. We endeavored to raise $10,000 for autism research and autism awareness.
Yes.
And we were very happy to have met that goal by the time we had our book launch. So
Phenomenal.
suddenly, yeah, the
Just
journey,
phenomenal.
it really has been. The journey has been phenomenal. And I say that with modesty simply because I can't fathom for the life of me how that transpired. And yet I know that it transpired just by the help of all the people around us. Mm-hmm. So when I believe that when you speak into existence.
Absolutely.
Right? They call it, that's why they call it, when magicians have a magic trick that they create something, they call it abracadabra. Mm-hmm. Abracadabra is ancient Hebrew that means I create what I say.
Absolutely.
And so here we are creating what it is that we're saying. Yes. Always. Speaking it into existence. We wanted to write a book. We wrote a book. It became a bestseller. We wanted to raise $10,000 for autism research.
You did it.
We did it. In the interim, the TEDx organizations, the TEDx community came to ask me to speak. I did have 2, which I was very lucky, and they were beautifully run events, and just very, very lucky to have that in my community. In addition, my employer, the major airline in Canada, picked up on this and actually asked me to come in and run an initiative. And it actually started, I actually was putting the feelers out. My daughter came home one day with her best friend. They had a play date. Well, the kids don't call it a play date anymore.
They don't call it a play date?
No,
what do they call it?
I'm an old mama to call it a play date. Like, come on, Mom. It's a hangout now.
It's okay.
Or chill out.
They
chill out, they hang out. They don't play date anymore.
Good.
Okay? Keep up, right?
I like
Keep
to
up,
stay
Mama, right?
current.
You got to stay current, right? BRB, LOL, we got to stay current. So they were hanging out.
I just figured out what SMH means.
I don't want to know. So they were hanging out, and when my daughter's best friend, when the mom came to pick her up at the end of the hangout, not play date, I invited her in, as moms do, for cheese and tea, and they were telling us the story of the first time that little girl, first and last time that she ever tried to board a plane. And it was so distressful for her. Yes. She went through security and got all the way to the gate. But by the time she got to the gate, a series of events happened that she became so overwhelmed, she ran away. Oh. So now she's distressed. The mom's distressed. They have to call the police at the airport. The airport has to shut down. Every flight can't take off. No one can leave. Everyone's starting to get angry. They can't say why. Anyway, it was an overwhelming experience for everyone involved, and they were retelling us this story. And my daughter, Ella, turns to her friend and says, "My mom should take you on a flight." And I said, "What?" And I'm thinking, yeah. I can make that happen. Take her something short, a 1-hour flight, and and the little girl says, "Really? Can you do that?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, actually, I can figure that out.
I can make it happen. I know people.
I can make it happen." And then she says, "And do you promise that the plane won't take off?" And I went, "Oh, okay. Challenge accepted." Challenge accepted. And that's actually exactly what I did. I just ran the first initiative called Open Skies for Autism, where the kids came to the airport, got their boarding pass, went through security, the whole check-in, all the boarding process, got on the flight, and then had a little taxi time around the airport for about half an hour, just to get them familiar and the sensory overload, have that sensory touch for them. Yeah, so that was,
that's beautiful. I was scrolling through your Facebook, and I saw the pictures of, and it's beautiful.
It was incredible. It really was incredible. Really, so that's really when I think of, as you ask, like, what was the journey? And I think it's really just a journey of putting yourself, it's kind of like throwing a pebble ahead of you. Mm-hmm. Do you remember, it's like playing hopscotch?
Yes.
Isn't that, you throw the pebble where you want to go, and it lands, and now you know exactly where you're going. And so it's the same thing. It's like everything that you want in life, you speak it into existence. You throw that pebble ahead of you. You throw that little rock ahead of you and it lands, and now you're going to hop to it. You're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
You're going to get there. Speak that into existence and let the community come in to help you. Speak that vision, that full vision into existence, and let that community come in and help you.
Well, I learned a lot from you. One is that we have something else in common. Both our mothers are special needs teachers.
Oh, is that right?
And my brother, who passed away recently, he was special needs growing up. Okay. So there's something very special. Well, we know the children are exceptional, but the experience living with a special child is that they stretch you to become incredible people. And they teach you how to live without limitations. And I think this is what I understood. You learned from your daughter's example, and how it stretched you to becoming, who you are.
Yes.
And to really observe the abracadabra in your daily life.
That's right.
And I do know that words have power, so we have to be careful of the words we choose every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Exactly. Thank you, Nikki.
No problem, Em.
You're a friend of mine if you're calling me Em.
Yeah, you got it. So tell us, how can we get copies of the books?
Oh, please. They are available on all major retailers like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo. Also, you can come check me out at www.meravrichter.com or braveecstaticwoman.com. But you know what I really love? Social media.
Yes.
Connect with me on social media. Drop me a message. I love seeing how someone was impacted, and I love hearing their own personal stories and everything that's going on in your life.
So you're on Facebook, LinkedIn?
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram,
Twitter.
Awesome. Twitter. Well, all the big ones.
All of them. Good. All right. Well, again, such an honor having you here.
As for me.
All my best to your children for
Thank
me.
you.
I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to maybe interviewing your kids and hearing more about, living with them. Mama M. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My pleasure.
We'll be back.
The Nikki Clarke Show, transforming lives one story at a time. If you would like to be a guest or become a part of our live studio audience, or even to become a sponsor, just go to www.NikkiClarkeNetwork.com.